vast, limitless void of space, the ultimate platformless environment, there exists a forgotten world, a place once thriving, now lost in the shadows, a graveyard of stalled progress where systems struggle to survive. While the universe accelerates, they remain frozen in time. Heavier, slower, outpaced. The pioneers of yesterday, now fallen, buried beneath the weight of their own legacy. And the future does not wait. It demands modernization. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a revolution, and the revolution has begun. Will you step forward or be left behind? Welcome to WSO2Con 2025, Platformless Modernization. Please welcome on stage, founder and CEO, Sanjeeva Weerawana.
All right. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here. Fantastic to see such a big audience and such a colorful and varied audience from 45 countries. I think that's about half our customer countries. I think we have customers in 93 countries. So that's amazing that we were able to pull together people from 40 plus countries to be here in this room. All right, so let's get started. So my job is to kick off everything, the entire proceedings we are running this morning. And today we are doing a slightly different style keynote than what we've done before, where we are bringing all the different product BU GMs to come and talk about the different aspects of what we are doing and how it all ties together. So I'm going to kick it off, and then we will bring each different parts as we go along in this story. So without further ado, so first of all, I want to I want to inform you that we crossed an important milestone last year. We crossed $100 million in ARR. This took us a while. Thank you. And really, the thanks is to all of you and all the customers who have been trusting us with absolutely critical infrastructure. As Rick said, we touch a very large part of the global community, many different systems, many different large corporations, small governments, large governments. We are underneath. We are the heartbeat underneath that nobody knows about. And it's also important, we are open source. So while we have a 700 plus paying customers, we estimate there's at least 10 to 100 times that number of production users of our software using it open source and free of charge. That's completely fine. That is what it's supposed to be. That is what being open source means. And actually several of them are here as well at this conference. We encourage our community members to participate and to engage with us and to help us improve the software and make everything better. I just want to note the little point at the bottom. Getting to becoming a $100 million software company in a profitable way while being 100% open source is not a very common thing. Very few companies have pulled that off. And we are one of the few companies, especially in the modern era, when everybody is spending money, massive amounts of money to sell and so forth. That's not the way we have done it, so it's been fantastic. We started in 2005, so it took us 19 years to get there. So thank you very much once again for everybody, for your trust and for the support to get us to this stage. So one other important announcement, of course, is EQT. WSO2 was acquired by EQT, which is a Swedish private equity firm. This was in August last year. And we are now part of the EQT family. EQT is a large private equity firm that has a very strong software portfolio, and including SUSE, IFS, Acumatica, very strong European companies and very strong companies all over the world that are part of the EQT portfolio. And so we are privileged to be part of this global network, privileged to be able to touch that network and leverage that network, and also for the maturity and the dependency and the scalability that brings to the company. But of course, whenever a private equity firm gets involved with a company, in a tech company, there's a history of what that means usually, right? And I think you've seen that in many places, and people are always nervous. What does that mean now that you're part of a private equity firm? Are you going to jack up the prices? Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? Are they bringing a new management team? All these kind of things are the typical first set of questions people with good reason wonder about. So let me tell you what is happening and what is not happening. So first of all, I'm very happy that we have an awesome board. This is something we did not have the luxury of having over the last 19 years before that. We have a board that, and I encourage you to go to that URL and check out our board members. And I'm very happy that Tammy and Nina are both here at this board meeting, at this event. And we have, unfortunately, Jonas couldn't make it. And we have a board that represents a massive amount of industry experience, a massive amount of industry knowledge, a massive amount of scaling experience, operating businesses, guiding businesses, and also dominating technology businesses. So we are very, very privileged to have a fantastic group of people on board with us to guide the company as we go along. And that also means my role itself, I am continuing in the company. I'm not going anywhere. I have committed to at least the next 5 years to try to build the company to the next level of the evolution. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we go along. And on the technology side, in fact, WSO2 is kind of an odd company because we're almost 20 years old now. We'll be 20 years in August this year. But we've never actually changed direction or pivoted in any way. Our focus from day one was we are going to build an enterprise middleware platform to help customers build digital infrastructure on top of that. And that's been our mission from day one. That hasn't changed. Of course, the underlying technology, how we do it, what language we program in, how we deploy it, all of that has changed. But fundamentally, every single customer, everybody here and everybody not here, all the people who use our technology and similar technology, build on this infrastructure to create experiences. And the goal has always been, how do we make that part as small as possible so we take on as much of that burden as possible for customers. So that is not changing. That is what we do. That is how we do it, and that's the way we do it. Sorry, on the how we do it part, we have been open source, right from the beginning, 100% open source. We are, again, kind of unusual in that way. Most companies which are open source are not fully open source. There's the community edition or children's edition, as we like to call it, which is available for everybody to download and use. Then there's the real one that you have to have a commercial license for. We have not done that. We have a different model. We give the software away free. Updates you only are given to people who are paying customers, but the updates are available on the trunk of the code base if you want to go get it. We also, as time goes along, we have been continuing to build more and more SaaS infrastructure. Obviously, more and more people are relying on platforms that are available for you to subscribe and use and not actually run them anymore. So that's been part of our journey as well. But we are keeping true to our heart and soul, which is open source, and we are making available the same infrastructure on both sides. So it's a lock-in free approach for how we do SaaS. Our goal is not to say, you come here, it's a walled garden, you take all your data, we lock you up, and you can never leave, which many SaaS companies do. But rather to say, if you don't want to do a whole bunch of stuff that it takes to run software, set it up, run it, backup, security, scaling, updates, all these things that have to go on in order to keep something running, we will take care of that for you, is what we are telling you. So when we look at WSO2, you can ask, so where are we going? What's the next step? What's our goal? So the thing with WSO2 is we don't have a goal. We don't have an end game. Right? We don't have a destination we are heading towards. So our goal, we have had a few milestones in the last couple of years. We've had several milestones, and we've had other milestones, and we will work on other milestones as time goes along. But we are not heading to a particular place. So there are important implications of that statement. And I'm going to quote something I read about Jack Ma and Alibaba. He had said in some interview, he had said that the company was formed in 1999. And he wanted to make sure the company lasted for at least 3 centuries. So 2000s and 2100s. So by definition, that means it cannot be about him, because that guy is not going to last that long, right? At least, well, technology might do something, but right now, nobody's going to last 150 years, not yet at least. So the point is, to have a model which says we are going to keep on going means it's not about one person. It's not about one piece of technology. It's not about one kind of language, because all of these things will change. But we are there to guide and drive down that road and keep going down that road to help people build what they need to build on top of that. So it's also important to understand from there about how we think about technology. This is a river in Sri Lanka, by the way, Kalina River in Kitulgala. If you ever go to Sri Lanka, you can go there and go whitewater rafting. It's kind of a nice, cool place. So technology is like a river. It doesn't stop. Every day, especially these days, every day you wake up, there's a whole new set of announcements. The thing that was hot and interesting yesterday is no longer hot and interesting today. It's something new. It's something extra, something different. So it keeps on moving. And it is not something that you can stop and say, okay, that's enough. I got enough. Now I'm going to stop. Right? With tech, it keeps on moving. So the way we think about technology is that technology is going to keep on moving. It is our job to figure out how to navigate these waters, how to make sure the boat doesn't topple, how to make sure that the other people who are riding on the boat with us are kept safe and don't get parked on a rock and get stuck there. If you've ever been whitewater rafting, you know what that means, right? You get off on a rock and you can get stuck there and you're stuck. You're not going anywhere. You don't want to get caught up and topple over either. So there are many things you need to watch out for when you do that. So that's the way we think about it. We don't think of it as there's something that comes today, there's some wave, there's something else and so forth. We always tend to think about this is a continuous journey. And it just keeps on going and it's never going to stop. And we are not the only ones who are going to innovate. That's another important thing. That actually comes from being open source. One of the principles of open source is this concept of standing on the shoulders of giants, which is that when you create something, you build on top of work other people have done. And similarly, when we do something, other people build on top of the work we have done. So that concept is what allows us to say we are going to keep on building, and we are not the only ones who are going to create the waves or create the next thing and so forth. We will create some of it, other people will create some of it. We need to figure out how to put it together and keep going down the road, down the river. So our challenge is actually to keep you going down the river, but not as rough, right? We want you to have a smooth ride. We want you to enjoy the ride. I mean, it's kind of boring to be paddling down the river with no waves, but you don't want it to be toppling and throwing you out and giving you a headache and all these kind of problems that you get when you fall off on a whitewater rafting trip, right? It's kind of fun, but not always, once in a way maybe. So that's our job. Our job is to flatten the river to some extent, give you a smoother ride, navigate you the right way, and get you moving forward the way you want to go forward. How do we do that? So there are a couple of things we follow in WSO2 which are not kind of normal mode for especially VC-funded companies. Now we are private equity owned, but when we were in other era. You know, companies in the tech industry, people tend to say, okay, new topic. Let me realign the company around this one. I'm sure you know what's going on right now around which topic, right? There's a new buzzword. Everybody's one of those companies now. And that's the way it works. So that's the hype cycle. Gartner, I think, came up with this. This is a brilliant picture. And one thing we do is we don't try to ride the wave, right? Ride this hype curve. We try to figure out what's coming, where's this going to land? Right? And we try to build to that instead of taking you up and down, taking us up and down, because our goal as a company is not to ride the curve to the top and then get off. So that's the important point. A company that is intending to be here for a long time, forever, for all practical purposes, doesn't aim to get off at the top. Right? If your only goal is to create some shareholder value, make some money, and go off and do something else, the goal in life for a tech company like that is start at the bottom of this curve, ride it to the top, get off right at the top before it all falls apart. Because you're done, right? And you go off and do something else. But as a customer, that doesn't do you any good because you're now going down to this bottom and then we'll find out eventually there's something there, right? So the way we do that, so of course the last bullet is important. There is a reason for the hype. It is rarely that there is a smoke without a fire. There is some fire underneath. And you have to figure out what that fire is. This is where the concept of first principles comes in, thinking comes in. Elon, of course, has been the one that has been kind of made this very popular. This has been the way we've thought about things because this is a mathematical way of thinking about problems. You go down to the foundation and you figure out what's underneath it, what's the basis for it, and then you can build up on top of that. So the way we think about problems is look at the problem from first principles. You're figuring out where you're trying to land, where is this going to land, and you're trying to understand what is behind this concept. Whether it is artificial intelligence or microservices or REST or various other hypes that we've been through in the last 20 years, what is behind that concept? Figure that out and build to that and wait for the market to catch up. Right? That's the way we operate. At the same time, you have to think big about the problems and think big about the abstractions and the underlying architectures. So the one thing in computer science computer science is kind of an unusual discipline. It's not a science, actually, right? We don't do anything fundamental in computer science. It's not a science like physics or chemistry or biology and so forth. It is and the one thing that you learn in computer science is it's a problem-solving tool, basically. And the way you solve problems is through abstraction. You take problems and you kind of build abstraction layers to be able to kind of dissolve the problem. Because if you have the right abstraction, many, many things kind of disappear and go away instead of it being something that you need to put energy on. And that is the challenge of computer science. So that's the thinking big part. When we see a problem, when we see a domain, we're constantly looking at it saying, okay, how do we connect the dots? How do we look at this and create an abstraction that kind of dissolves the underlying problem and gives you a better view? Right? Abstraction is a way of hiding details, being able to think about things without getting stuck in the mud, and being able to see a bigger picture, being able to see how it fits into a bigger picture. And if you look at what you do versus what we do, we're both playing the same game in some sense. Right? You're building technology for your customers. We're building technology for you to build infrastructure and technology and experiences for your customers. So you're trying to create abstractions that represent the business. So whereas we are trying to create abstractions that abstract the technology so you don't have to get stuck on the bottom of that story, but be enjoying the top of the story, which is creating abstractions that power your business. So creating the business platform, the capabilities that you're building those experiences, that is what you are creating. We are creating the level underneath that. Right? So that's a part that we focus on every day. So if you look at this and say, okay, where are you today on that picture? Most companies, I would argue, are in this mode, where most of your focus is at that platform level and below. It's at that platform level. And there's a little bit of focus, obviously, on building the experiences, building the capabilities. And much of the energy goes into how do I take, whether it is DevOps pipelines, CI/CD pipelines, whatever the various acronyms that you want to pick up, your container management infrastructure, all this stuff that you need to have put together. How do I put that together, manage that, operate that, deliver that, and not on the part that you really should be focusing on? So our goal is really to get you here, where you focus mostly on the top part. And yes, you need a platform, but the technology abstractions kind of disappear from your focus. They meld away in front of you. And it's there, you cannot do without it. You need the platform, but it's not where your eyes and your energy and your focus is. Right? That is the point of Platformless. The point of Platformless is to drive the focus in the business architecture to those upper levels, the parts that you absolutely have to do yourself. Because you, as a customer, have to build the digital experience for your customers. Right? We don't do that, we can't do that. That's not our domain. We don't know that domain. That is what you know. So giving that capability for you to be able to do that is what we try to do. Abstract away, give you a platformless experience so you don't have to struggle at the bottom level. So modernization then, platformless modernization, means being able to focus on modernizing the business abstractions. Because in many companies, the business abstractions that you're working with today are what you inherited. And the way things are changing, the way technology is evolving, the rate and pace at which technology is evolving, those abstractions need to be upgraded and constantly upgraded. It's not a one-time job. Right? So let me give a simple example to drive this point home. So collaboration. We started the company in 2005. In 2005, there was no Google Mail. There was no anything. We had mail from pair.com. There was no real chat concept at the time. Over time, there was a Jabber. There was an application called Jabber, a protocol called Jabber, and we had a Jabber server that we were running. If you wanted to have shared files, you had a file system. We had an NFS mount that we shared in our office network. If you wanted to have calendar sharing, you set up a CalDAV server. And you got all these things to work. You have LDAP and you have single login. You try hard to get single login to work. Some of them don't work. And that's how things worked. Right? And you send a mail, most of the time the mail gets delivered. Sometimes it doesn't. Send a calendar invite, you give them a call to make sure you got the calendar invite. Right? This is the way things work. And so you take all the different pieces of what it means to collaborate and wire it all up together yourself. And every company did this. We did it. Every company did this. If you were in a university, I was in a university before that, I was in IBM research before that. Everywhere, everybody set it up and ran it themselves. Right? And anti-spam, antivirus, and so on and so on. There's so many different parts to building and operating a collaboration platform. It is one of the hardest problems there is. And then you're going to keep it up, and somebody deletes their mail. Well, then what can you do? In the pre-IMAP era, well, you lost your mail, you lost your mail. Somebody left, mail's gone, right? That was the model. Now, now it's different. So today, when you have a company, if you want to have collaboration, you have two choices primarily. There are some others, but primarily there are two choices, Google and Microsoft. Google Workplace Suite and Microsoft 365. And you sign up to one of these things, and you're done. Right? And even signing up takes no time. You just set up a few DNS records, you do a few things, and off you go. And you don't ever have to think about, is my email working? Is my email going to bounce? Is the file too big? Is my calendar working? Is my chat working? All that is just not in your focus anymore. So where's your focus now? Your focus is on, okay, how do we collaborate? Where are we managing our knowledge? How do I set that up so we can share information the way we want? What is the protocol for sharing in my business versus your business? That's what you focus on. So the conversation gets upgraded from worrying about infrastructure to worrying about collaboration. Right? That is platformless. Getting to that point in collaboration means whenever you have a company now, you never think about this layer. And if you know how this layer works, the level of complexity to get this layer to work properly is incredible. And you just don't deal with it. It just works for you, and you forget about it, right? That's platformless collaboration. So come to software now. Now, a company goes through a digital journey, and customers go through a digital journey. Let me explore the y-axis for a second. Every company has customers that you interact with digitally, and it starts off with very simple things like, okay, I just need to give them some contact information. Then maybe they can go and get some information from what they're doing with the company. Maybe they can transact. Maybe they can go, instead of having multiple transactions, one experience. And as time goes along with AI and agents, maybe the customer can be taken care of before they even know something has to be happening, right? Autonomous. And most companies have not one transaction experience. They have many experiences. Right? Maybe, if you're lucky, you'll have only one username password, but you go into different places. Most companies haven't connected all those things together to give me as a customer a unified digital experience to work with you as a company. Right? And that's what I want for me, because then I don't have to deal with all these different systems, different places. I go to one place, everything I need to know, everything I do, everything I need to be aware of is right in one place. Then on the other side, on the business side, again, a company adopts technology over time. So collaboration is fundamental. If you can't work with each other, you can't do anything. Then as productivity becomes important, you start buying productivity applications. Maybe you buy some financial management application, buy an ERP, buy a CRM, buy an HR application, and so on and so on. Then you realize, okay, I need to connect these things because these are little silos I've created or big silos you've created. Now to connect these things, you need to do some integration. And then at some point, it becomes that the integration is too fragile because I'm moving things all over the place, so I start creating, okay, let me treat these as capabilities and just create my own experiences. And then now, with AI, comes this concept of agents. Right? So the zone, when you look at this two-axis way of looking at it, saying, well, what is the digital experience for customers or digital capabilities for customers, and what's the digital capabilities that the business will have, you can see where a company becomes a software company, where you need to create experiences. In order to give the customer a way to have an experience, I need to be able to have all my systems connected together. I need to be able to talk to all the different data sources and bring them all together. And that's when you start becoming a software company. Right? And what happens, of course, is when you start becoming a software company, today, the world is like the way email was. When we decide we're going to do email, you go buy an email server those days, buy an email, some kind of an SMTP server, you buy some antivirus thing, anti-spam thing, you buy all these different pieces and you wire it all together. And that's the way you become a software company today, all bottom up from there. But that's not the right way to do it. The way we should think about it is we are on a modernization journey. So we are going down that path of becoming more and more of a software company. And this is not a constant. Modernization is not a transformation. I don't actually like the term digital transformation because it suggests you're here and you get there and you're done, right? And it's not. You're never done. It's like that river. You're always flowing down. So it's a constant journey. You are here, you're going to do something, get there, and then you're going to get to the other place, and so on. And then what? Right? That's one of my favorite points. Whenever you're somewhere, you must always ask, and then what? What comes next? And it just keeps on going like that. So that's the part that we are trying to build for you so that you can keep moving with technology. You don't want to be stuck on a flat part of the river. You need to keep moving. Because if you're stuck on a flat part of the river, there's no fun in that. There's no experience. And your customers will get on somebody else's boat and keep going down if your boat doesn't move. Right? So you got to keep on moving. So you have to keep moving with the technology, keep modernizing continuously. It is not a one-step process. So that's what we focus on. That is the company WSO2. That is what we do. We give you a toolkit that helps you modernize. And let me explain very briefly what our technology platform is, and then we will dig into each one of these with each person one by one. So first of all, a digital infrastructure for any company is built on two fundamental pillars now. One is identity, because security is very important. I need to know who you are. If I'm going to interact with you digitally, I need to know who you are. When you came in here, you have registered, we checked you in, you got a badge, so that's a way of authenticating you. That's a very weak form of authentication, right? We're not checking your fingerprints, we're not checking your passport, we're not checking your retina scan, because it doesn't matter for this problem, right? If somebody else wants to come and listen to me talk, no problem, right? This is okay. So, but if you're doing something more significant, if you are paying a bill, you want to make sure this is the right person. If you're doing a transfer, accessing your bank account, you want to make sure. So the authentication becomes more important. So identity is a fundamental thing. You cannot be a digital business without cracking digital identity, both for your employees and for your customers. Because if your employees and customers don't have well-established identity, you have a big problem. The second part is digital experiences you deliver today are not the experience you're going to have to deliver tomorrow. That river is going to keep on flowing. So that means you have to keep on evolving. Gartner has a term for this. It's called a composable business. It's a very good term, because what it says is what you need to do is that in that business abstraction layer, make the business into a set of composable atoms, composable units. Then you can combine those composable units to deliver whatever experience that you want to deliver. Right? That's API management. That is the fundamental technology infrastructure that you need in any enterprise to be able to take units, software units, which are exposed as APIs and events, data, and so forth, exposed as network accessible endpoints, and then you make them available for composition. And that composition layer is what gives you the business experience, that capabilities. And that's the core of that. So those two are the core things in my view, the capability of having composable units, that's APIs, and events and data as units, and identity to help you identify who's the person using it, where are they coming from, what are they authorized to do, and so on. What you do with these things typically is that platform, that the picture that I showed you earlier where there was a business set of technology abstractions underneath and there's a platform. Building that platform is what everybody in this room is typically doing. In your organizations, there's a digital architecture. Somebody has an enterprise architecture, and you're building those pieces together. And that platform is something that is built on API management integration and a whole host of other supporting things. It's not only those two things by any means. And you can put it together, and we have many customers who have put that together. We also have built that platform as a service. That's an internal developer platform. The market term for that is now an internal developer platform. And we have built that and made it available as a service, so you can just sit on top of that and you get to doing what you need to do. The box at the bottom, the integration, when you have composition, when you have units available, every business problem to create an experience becomes an integration problem. So there are two stages of work. One is to create the unit, and second is compose something. So composing something becomes an integration problem. And in fact, most of the time, creating units themselves is an integration problem because units are created from other units. You create something by taking other things that you have in the business and putting some shape and structure and form to it. And that's the integration space. Right? Those are the areas that we operate in. And of course, and we're going to talk about each of these today and then throughout this conference. Of course, there's this other new thing that came out, right? AI. It's not new. AI has been around, I think, from 1950s. From very early days of computing, the idea of intelligence, computing being an intelligent component that helps, has been prevalent in all parts of science, all parts of computer science, and many, many technologies have come and gone over the years on how you would build an intelligent system. In the last few years, of course, the concept of generative AI has come along, especially with scaled-out computing and the different approaches that have come for that. And we are now kind of at a crossing the chasm point for artificial intelligence, where you can actually do a lot of things that you couldn't do before. And so AI has come out of its last winter and is in a major summer now, where there's a lot of work going on in AI. And of course, whenever you look at entire digital enterprise architecture, now you need to look and see how does AI play across that architecture. So we are working on that as well, and that's a very important part. So we don't have a product for AI, as you saw in that picture, but it's a backplane. It's a foundational backplane that goes underneath and immersed into everything, and also enabling you to create things with AI. So my first handoff today is going to be to Dr. Rania Khalaf, who is our Chief AI Officer. So let me briefly introduce her before bringing her on stage. So Rania, actually I have known Rania for a long time. Rania and I were colleagues in IBM Research. She has a PhD in computer science, and in fact her PhD advisor was Professor Frank Lyman, who's sitting right in front of me. She studied at MIT before that, joined IBM Research, and then we worked together in IBM Research. I was there until 2001, and Rania went on to leading IBM's AI engineering work in IBM Research, and then was working in another company, and she has joined WSO2 as our Chief AI Officer. So it's an honor and a pleasure for me to welcome Dr. Rania Khalaf to talk a little bit about our AI work. Rania.
Good morning, Barcelona. Hello, everyone. It's really a wonderful pleasure to be here talking with you this morning about the latest buzz and hype, but that's really creating a lot of value, which is AI. We've been hearing a lot about it. There's over $600 billion expected to be invested in AI by 2028. And we're all wondering, how do we get value out of this? How do we integrate it? How do we use it? And it's changing at a fast breakneck speed. So really, we are here to help you figure out how can you ride the river, like Sanjeeva was saying, not fall off the boat, because we're really seeing that the companies that are embracing it responsibly in productive ways are getting far ahead of those that are not. So how can we do that? We're also seeing, if we look at the software space, about right now, AI agents are, and we'll talk a bit about what those are to demystify them, but they're now able to close about 67% of GitHub issues in something called SWE-bench, which is a benchmark for software engineering, like open issues in GitHub, right? So these agents are set out against them, and they try to close them autonomously. So we're really seeing this very large shift in what this technology is able to do. So if we look at what does that mean for our domain, right? In the software development space, in the app building space, in the intelligent modernization area, what does that mean for us? We see two main areas, and these are the areas that are driving the focus of what we are doing in WSO2 with and for AI. The first piece is AI is being used for code to make the coding experience faster, better, easier. We hear about the 10x developer. We hear about vibe coding, which is like I talk to it and it makes the app and we iterate from there. So this is about AI boosting every single step of the software development lifecycle. Now you heard Sanjeeva talk about abstractions, right? So the other piece that we're seeing is AI is being included in many applications. So we want to be able to bring in these capabilities into any new application we are building. And unfortunately, the application stack and developer tools and the abstractions that we have today do not quite fit with that. And we're seeing a lot of evolution in the middleware stacks, in the programming languages, in the abstractions, the libraries, the tools, and even the models themselves especially, it is all changing. It is changing fast, and it is changing at the same time. So we think of this as code for AI, the advances in code that let you build AI capabilities. And finally, bringing these together also, we are thinking at WSO2, we have created a new concept called natural programming, where we are really thinking from first principles about how natural language and programming languages come together. Because now that humans and machines can read, write, and execute natural language instructions, these two things can come together, and we're looking at what does that mean for the software development lifecycle, but also for the programs that I write. Can I write programs that are mixing together natural language and code, depending on what I'm trying to do? So this is really how we see our world for AI in WSO2. And it really comes together, right? Because as you change the abstractions and the middleware and the tools, you also need to change all the co-pilots and the assistants that help you build the software faster. So it's a virtuous cycle. So if we look at the space around how software development is changing, it is becoming very, very clear right now that a modern application is AI native. And I know there's a ton of buzz in this space. It's kind of annoying. But we'll be very clear about what we mean by that. So right now, customers just expect more and more that if you give them a digital product, that it is interactive, it is personalized, it can respond to their needs. It has these things that we think of when we think of generative AI capabilities, and it's just part of every application and what it does. It's kind of like right now we take for granted that applications are probably going to use something online on the internet, where 20 years ago that wasn't the case, right? It's just part and parcel now. It just has to be there. So what did we do in that thought? Just to illustrate, last year we had our app for WSO2Con. You could open it, you can see who are the speakers, you could see the agenda, figure out where the food is, great. So what we did was said, okay, so if we say the modern application is AI native, then of course, like you are here and you're going to expect more out of this experience if we're going to get an app, rather than just go to the website. So what we've done is we've just added some of these capabilities into the app. So now I can ask it, who are people that I should talk to now that I'm here, right? And to do that, it's looking at my profile, and if you've given your consent, it's also looking at your profiles, and it's trying to do a matchmaking to see who are people that have aligned interests that are also here that you might consider talking to and reaching out. There's also an assistant. We're all familiar with assistants. You can ask things about the conference, about people to meet, how's the party, whatever you like, and several other things like that that are embedded in the application. So it doesn't have to be magical, right? So for you to adopt AI and to use it, doesn't have to be some groundbreaking thing like a self-flying airplane, right? You can bring it in, you can bring it in today, you can bring it in simply, and it really makes the customer experience better, more fun, more interactive. So I encourage you to download it. If you downloaded it before, folks have been working on it like over the last few days still, so please update, get again the latest version. So we hear a lot AI native, AI powered, AI this, AI that, AI assisted, and it's very confusing. So I'll just give a simple way to explain how we see the world of what we mean by AI native, right? So there's an application, a regular application without AI. It does all its usual stuff, talks to databases and APIs. Maybe it's exposed through an API. You talk to it through a user interface. Then you have an application that can call a generative AI model. So here you're just asking it, plan me my trip to Barcelona or something like this, right? Where it's just using all the knowledge it's been trained on before, and it's going to answer your question, and it's just a step in your larger application. You can think of it, it's like an API that you call, right? This is the simplest way. And the nice thing about these generative AI models that exist as foundation models, they've been trained on tons and tons and tons of data. So they have, you can call some knowledge they come with, right? That knowledge goes up to a certain date. They only have access to certain capabilities, so they're a bit limited, but they have, they're really good at certain things, and they're really good with language in particular. So if you want to summarize something, translate something, now they're also multimodal. Multimodal is just a fancy word for they don't only do language, they also do other stuff like pictures, video, audio, etc. So you can also upload your receipt, and it'll tell you how much you should file for your expense report after you go home from the conference, etc., right? So all this works out of the box. So using a Gen AI model in your application is really just an integration problem now. You don't have to hire an AI team and build some very sophisticated data infrastructure and buy GPUs. That era is finished, right? Now you can just integrate these Gen AI models. Then moving to another step is this idea of retrieval augmented generation. That's just a fancy way of saying, I want to use the Gen AI models because they're really good at these things, but I want to ground them in information that's relevant to my problem. So let's say I want to interact with them about things private and proprietary, about WSO2 strategy and roadmap, etc. Then I need to give them that information and that special context, right? So you're retrieving information that they don't know about, and you're adding that into your interaction with them to kind of help them get you answers that are more accurate. So this is called a RAG, and then it just means you have the Gen AI model in practice, and you have a knowledge base where your special knowledge is that you want to ground it in, and your app works with these, and works with APIs, and works with data, and all the usual fun things. Finally, we have agents. There was a wonderful short article a few days ago someone sent me that said something, I think the title was, nobody agrees what the hell an agent is. But, so the jury's still out about exactly what it is. It had a very specific computer science definition a few years ago, but now it's been, riding the hype cycle. But let's just think very simply about what is different between the two examples we talked about before and when we talk about agents. So one of the things the couple of things everyone agrees about the agents is that they call tools. What does that mean? There's like, you call a Gen AI model, you don't only just ask it questions for question answer, but it's going to go do stuff. It's going to book your trip. It's going to commit a code into GitHub. It's going to schedule a meeting, right? Those are the tools. It's actions. They have side effects. They do things to the world. And it also listens in and is affected by things happening around it. And finally, and again, it also has the other pieces. It has a knowledge base. It has a Gen AI model. And one thing that makes it a bit special too is usually these agents decide when and what tools to use. So you say, you have access to these 5 tools, and I want you to accomplish this task. And they figure out non-deterministically, using reasoning and planning, to know which tools to use, in what order, and how to pass the data around from one to the other, right? So that's what an agent is. So now we have applications that could use agents. In our WSO2Con app, for example, the chat assistant that you talk to, that's using an agent. We also have some agents behind the scenes that are what's called a transient agent. That means you don't talk to it with chat, but it's triggered from an event. So whenever anyone registers for the conference, if they give their consent, it's creating a profile about them in the knowledge base so that the other pieces of our app can do the matchmaking and the recommending and so on, right? So those are what agents are. And you can include them in your applications. So again, this starts to look like an integration problem, yeah? If I have these building blocks, if I have a tool and a Gen AI model, and I can talk to a knowledge base, I can make an agent. I can put in my application. And finally, the agent breaks free. So in this case, we hear a lot about autonomous agents. These are agents that are part of your team. They have an identity. They work autonomously. They are more independent. And this is an emerging space. The jury's still out exactly how they will be managed and so on, and how good the tech is to support them. But the idea is that the agent doesn't always have to be attached to one user or one app. It can take on a life of its own, and the technology is emerging to be able to monitor, manage, audit these things. All right? So now that we've made very specific what we mean by an application, we have the example with the WSO2Con that you all can try and use to give a sense of, what these things do in practice. And we see that it's, we can build these things. So how do we build them? So this is the space we were thinking of code evolving for AI. How is code changing to support AI? So you have your enterprise architecture. It's stable, it's reliable, it's interwoven, it's there in the background. And AI is this shiny, glittery, hypey, everyone's buzzing around it, and it's very exciting. And we want to really weave AI into our applications. We want to bring it into all the experiences we are building and we are creating, and we want it to be part and parcel of everything else. But what is happening is that because the abstractions and the tools and the programming models are not there yet for building these kinds of applications, it's very hard to do that. Right? So you try to put it in, and it's kind of kludgy. And even though like 98% of companies are experimenting with AI, only 26% of them are able to take it to production. And it used to be that, hey, you can be cool about AI because you hire an AI team and you publish some papers, and it looks good like you have an AI strategy. But now everyone is expecting value because there's real value being created by bringing AI into your processes, into your applications, and into your products. So we really need to crack this nut. So what we are doing at WSO2 is we are helping you unravel that glittery ball of yarn and weave it into your applications and into your enterprise architecture by giving you the building blocks and the abstractions that you need to build AI-native applications. So we look at the pieces we talked about before, agents, GenAI models, knowledge bases, tools, and we make them first class. They're in your palettes, they're in your build environments. Everywhere you're trying to build, you have these as a first-class concept. You don't have to put wrappers and wrappers around it and figure out how to navigate the waters for it. And that is the approach we're taking for Code for AI. So this is, again, the WSO2Con app. This is the piece of it that's a networking service. I don't need an agent for the networking service. It's just going to call a GenAI model, scour the internet a little bit, and then it's going to also use the knowledge base. So here's the example of it. So to build that now, today, we can first, when we talk to these large language models, we may need to govern and guard these interactions. You'll hear more about it in a few minutes, what we mean. But you want to have like a checkpoint on the outbound and inbound with these interactions, and we let you do that with the WSO2 AI gateway. And you need to then build, connect, orchestrate, and deploy such a service. And this is like an integration as an API, and it calls some GenAI models. It has a rack pattern inside. And with Ballerina Integrator, Devant, and Choreo, we let you easily, quickly build and deploy these things. So why do we need to build an agent? Now we talked about the simple case, call a model, do a RAG. Now we need to talk about agents. So you have an agent. What's an agent? An agent interacts with the GenAI model. It uses tools. It has a knowledge base. It interacts with its environment. And tools really are just wrappers around APIs. There are other kind of tools, but the most basic tools are wrapping APIs, right? And those APIs need tokens. If you're calling a protected service, if this agent is going to go book something with my credit card, we need some authentication there, some delegation there. So they need tokens to call these APIs. So that means they have identity. And for that, we are also very excited that there's so much coming out in open source and in SaaS around the world for the AI ecosystem, giving us the building blocks and components in terms of the GenAI models, the knowledge bases and agent frameworks that we integrate very nicely with. So how do we do it? So in WSO2, you'll be hearing throughout the day today and throughout the conference about how we help you go all around this cycle. We help you build, connect, orchestrate, and deploy the agents in things like Ballerina Integrator and Devant. We help you govern and guardrail your interactions with these generative AI models so that they are safer, that they are, you have rate limiting, you can put guardrails. So we said that Tools are just wrappers around APIs in a sense. We let you take your API. If you're an API provider, you can make them into tools very easily, and that opens you up for all the people building agents can now take advantage of using your tools, and you can build agents easily on top of them. And finally, and very importantly, we are enabling agent authentication. We're enabling agent identity. So we think really about how does identity and access management adapt and evolve now that these components become first class in my computing fabric, in my environment, and there's something I need to think about. So here's an example. I talked about natural programming, so natural language as code. So this is stepping back a little bit. So this is about thinking, how do I mix natural language and code together? So what we've done is we've made it possible to use natural language as the body of your function. Sometimes you want to call a function, and it's easier to do it in natural language as code because the type of work you're doing. Here I want to say, find the best matching historical person born in a certain year with a particular name. That would be very hard for me to do in code. I don't want to take this and generate code. I want an LLM to do it, right? But that's the body of my function. So we let you now use natural language as the body of your function. And then what is really cool about it is that the return value is put into a record based on your function signature. And now you can just do person.firstname, person.last name. And when you run it, it says, it's a bit hard to see, but you see it comes back with, I run it here with 1940 and John, and it comes back with John Lennon, right? So it just makes it really easy. Of course, I could build an API and pass it parameters and deal with error handling and on top of a library for interacting Gen AI models, but we just try to make it a lot easier, simpler, part and parcel of the language. Now, we said that the other area is about boosting productivity for SDLC, and we do this across the whole life cycle. We do it where you are, where your developers are, where your users are. So either in VS Code, we give you copilots and assistant to help you write your code and so on. And we also do it in all our consoles, so in the products, to let you create quickly your login flows, to do branding, any of the things that you need. Where you are, if there's a way to boost it with AI, we try to do that for you to make you more productive. And that's what Sanjeeva was saying, right? We see AI really as interwoven into the fabric. It's not something standalone on the side that has its own product and its own story. Right? And finally, natural programming comes back here too, because if we think about how natural language and code work together, then it also comes to when we think about requirements are in natural language, documentation is in natural language, code's in code. So how can the system be aware of these? And we're using generative AI technologies to try to help keep requirements, documentation, and code in sync, so we can know if there is a drift between them, and we can give you some fixes to suggest either changing the code or changing the documentation. So just to summarize, let's bring it back together. So today, AI is hard to integrate into your enterprise, weave into your processes, development processes, tools, teams, skills. All of it is still evolving. And with WSO2, we are really looking at how do you do intelligent modernization, unravel that yarn, and really weave it into your enterprise. And to wrap it up, we're open source, which especially in AI is really fantastic because a lot of the ecosystem plays that way and helps us build the community. It's comprehensive. We're looking not only at code for AI or AI for code, but we're looking at both. How do we make you more productive? And how do we adapt the application stack to make it more AI ready and AI native? And finally, we play really well with the AI ecosystem, so you can have your choice of models, frameworks, providers. And if you want to learn more about the AI story, we've launched WSO2.ai as a web page. Again, it's not its own product. The implementation of AI for us is all across our portfolio, and from there you can link to all the pieces, read about this story some more. So with that, I'll just close and encourage you to come to we have some sessions focused on AI. You'll hear about what's happening in all the products, but there are also some specific sessions. Get hands-on in the AI lab. Come to the Birds of a Feather. I and some of the AI team will be there. You can ask us questions and we can have a chat. There's a lovely AI track with some great speakers from working on inventing the next generation of agents and using them in retail and finance. And I'll have a keynote to close us out on Thursday. So with that, thank you so much. Sanjeeva?
All right. Thank you, Rania. So let's continue our journey through our product portfolio. So next up is going to be to talk about integration. Why integration next, first of all? Because this is not the foundational technology. But as Rania just explained, AI is not something that is outside of your enterprise architecture. For AI to be successful, it has to be deeply meshed in with the architecture that you have. And integration is a fundamental approach for doing that. So we are going to talk about how we bring those two together and also talk about the various other things that are going on in integration today. So to do that, it's my pleasure to introduce Selvaratnam Udeshankar, or Shankar as he's called. Shankar is our head of our integration business unit. Shankar joined the company in 2007, I believe. He was in an engineering role. He ended up as the head of engineering, and he's an expert in all things integration and many other areas. And he now heads the integration BU. He is based in Colombo, Sri Lanka. I forgot to mention, Rania is based in Boston. We're kind of all over the place. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Shankar.
Thank you, Sanjeeva. Good morning, folks. It's a pleasure to be here. So as you heard, integration is the glue which brings all the systems together, which powers your AI strategy or the integration strategy and so on. So in WSO2, we solve all the integration challenges. Can it be like you want to build an automation, or you want to build an AI agent, or you want to expose an API or create an API and expose it. Or you want to build an integration which is triggered by some events or some file changes. Whatever the integration challenge is, we provide support to build that. Basically, we provide all the necessary capabilities so that you can connect any system to any system, so using various protocols and so on. How we are building is, we provide two offerings. One is the open source software, on-prem software called WSO2 Integrator. And the other one is the iPaaS offering we are releasing now called Devant. So, I mean, we talk about different integration problems, but at the same time, even the integration styles can be different. So WSO2 Integrator supports low-code integrations, pro-code integrations, or streaming integrations, etc. And WSO2 Integrator supports all that combination. And we have a nice tooling, combined tooling, which provides you to build any integrations and can use it. So let me explain a bit about the WSO2 Ballerina Integrator, the new integration engine we are announcing now, we are releasing. This is integration technology powered by Ballerina. So Ballerina is a programming language optimized for integration. So this was released sometime back by WSO2. So we are building a Ballerina integrator, which is a low-code development experience by using the Ballerina language underneath. So the unique aspect of Ballerina integrator is it has a unique low-code design approach where you can build any complex integrations, without even leaving the low-code experience. So any complex integrations you can build using the low-code experience available there, and you can do the complex scenarios. Then the next item we are announcing today is the Devant, which is our iPaaS offering we are announcing today. Any integrations you are building using the WSO2 integrator, you can host it in Devant, you can operate it in Devant, and manage all the life cycles within that. So, like, for example, if you are running an integration in the Devant, you can observe it, you can troubleshoot it, manage it, and do various items. Right? And this is powered by Choreo. Choreo is our internet developer platform. It's a technology which powers Choreo, which is powering Devant as well. So you get all the enterprise capabilities for your integrations. Like if you want to have multiple environments, that is powered, given underneath. Or if you want to have multiple data planes, including the private data planes, so that you can host the services in your on-prem data plane or any of the cloud offerings, AWS or Azure or GCP, then those are given, and security features and so on. So underneath, it's powered by Choreo as well as WSO2 integrator. So you build any integrations using the integrator and can host it in Devant. So let me briefly talk about the AI capabilities we are offering. So as Rania said, this is the AI capabilities we build, or the abstraction we provide you to build intelligence integration. So first one is the AI agents. So as you see in the picture, this is a low-code way of building an AI agent. So it's a process of, okay, you create an agent, you connect to a Gen AI model like a LLM or other models, then you connect multiple APIs into the agent, which is like tools offered. Basically, the APIs are connected as tools. Then you program the agent using some prompts, and that's it. And you have an agent ready within a couple of seconds, not even minutes, right? And these agents can run as a standalone agent. This is the agent which Rania talked about breaking out of the applications and can run on its own as a standalone agent. Or in cases where if you want to use the agent within an integration flow, you can include it and can give some intelligence behavior for your integrations flows. But the agent is a kind of an advanced case. Again, like in the talk, Rania mentioned about 3 cases. One is you want to have some Gen AI model connected to your integrations, or you want to have a rack flow within an integration. So all of that is possible with the Barcelona integrator, where if you want to provide some intelligence and non-deterministic behavior into your integrations, it's possible by bringing all of them together. And obviously, we can do other integrations as well, like file integrations, event integrations, and so on. But I want to especially mention about the integrations as API. So Balena integrator allows you to build any integrations and expose it as an API, and you can run it, host it in Devant, and can manage all the APIs within Devant. Because we have brought all the API management expertise we have in the company, as well as all the API management capabilities available in our platform within Devant. So if you want to manage the integrations as an API, as a managed API, you don't need to ever leave Devant. You can manage all the API management capabilities within Devant itself. And then VS Code experience we are providing. So development is, integration is development, and development is integration. In the enterprises, often when you do a new development, it is composing back all the building blocks. So the development experience is very critical for us, and we are spending a lot of time building the development experiences here. So in this particular case, we provide lots of AI-enabled, AI-powered capabilities within our development environment. For example, when you are building a flow, integration flow, you can do automatic code completion, so automatic visual completion within the flow itself. So basically, it analyzes the integrations and documentations, and then can suggest automatic code completion or the visual completions within the flow itself. Or we provide co-pilot capabilities, where you can explain the problem in natural language, and it can analyze and generate the code. So it's not only generating the code for the first time, but you can keep on interact with the co-pilot and can modify or refactor the code and adjust the code to the level you want. And other capabilities like data mapping. Data mapping is one of the other main use cases or main capabilities needed for an integrations. In this particular case, when you provide the source schema and the target schema, AI can analyze both of them and can suggest automatic connections between the source schema and the target schema. Again, generating test cases, generating documents, and so on. All of that is given as part of the development experiences here. And Ballerina Integrator has a unique capability because thanks to the underlying Ballerina language, you have the low code and the pro code parity. Again, why it is important? Because in most cases, the Ballerina Integrator allows you to build any complex integrations using the low code itself. But there are some people, some developers who are interested in pro code and who prefer the way of programming or way of pro coding to create an integrations. So for the first time, we have brought pro code developers and low code developers together so that they can collaborate and interact with each other to build integrations. So whatever the modifications you are doing in the low code will be available in the pro code, or whatever the modifications you are doing on the pro code will be available in the low code, which brings both sides of the camp into a single collaborative development area. So let me talk briefly about the micro integrator as well. So again, we provide similar capabilities, whatever the capability I discussed about Ballerina Integrator in the micro integrator as well, which has a VS Code development experience with all the copilot, all the test case generations, all the data mapping capabilities, and so on. Again, if you want to connect to any of the models within your integrations, or if you want to have a rack flow within an integrations, you can do using the micro integrator as well. And we build the capabilities to build agents as well. That is coming soon. Will be released in next couple of weeks. So WSO2 Integrator is trusted by several customers in various industry verticals. So we sincerely thank them being part of WSO2's journeys. And most of them were truly partner with us, being partner with us, giving tremendous feedback, incredible feedback, which helps us to shape the product to an awesome integration product. So if you want to learn more about integrations, we have several sessions, integration-focused sessions in next 3 days. We have detailed integration labs today, then a dedicated integration track tomorrow, and there are some talks on Friday as well, Thursday as well, day after tomorrow. And if you want to learn more, please come to these sessions or meet us, and happy to have discussions with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shankar. Ladies and gentlemen, next up, we're going to talk about API management. So APIs are the unit, as I said earlier, is a fundamental unit with which you do everything. Whether you're doing AI and you're trying to create tools for AI engines to consume, or whether you're creating atoms or workflows or other kind of things to consume, APIs are what makes it all possible. So we have been working in this space for a long time. We are a well-established API management vendor. So I'm very pleased to talk to you about what we are going to be doing with APIs and how we are evolving our API management story as well. So to do that, it's my pleasure to introduce Chris Davey. Chris joined the company in 2018. Chris is based in UK, in London. Before joining WSO2, he was in the UK government, and he has been working with us since then. He worked on various aspects of solution architecture, product platform architecture, and so forth, and became the GM of the API management business unit about 2 years ago. Without further ado, please welcome Chris.
Thanks, Sanjeev. Hi, it's a pleasure to be here. Good morning to everybody. So, key focus for my session is around how do we help you manage all those assets and capabilities you need to compose your architecture that Sanjeev was talking about. So our aim is for all the APIs you create, the APIs you use, to give you that overall governance and management of that estate. So whether you're consuming external SaaS services, whether you're consuming the AI services, we want to give you that ability to be able to see everything you're using and get a good view of what you're doing with it. So we've got, as we're doing with the other products, we've got a very simple structure, open source software and a SaaS equivalent. So on the open source software on API Manager, we're focusing on a single universal control plane. So you've got one pane of glass to view all your APIs no matter where they're running. So, and we have our multiple gateways that will allow you to deploy the best tool for the job to manage your APIs in the right environment where you want to run them. So we have our Kubernetes gateway. If you want to utilize a Kubernetes native environment, you want to leverage all of the benefits that that can bring you. We've got our immutable gateway for edge and highly secure deployments. We've got our universal gateway, which will run anywhere and enable you to access a large range of protocols and built-in mediation capabilities. We're also introducing in the latest release the ability to fully manage AWS gateways and Solace, which means that you can extend that governance, that capabilities, that control plane visibility over even more gateways, over even more runtimes. Just to talk a bit about the API gateway. So we're doing new capabilities in this latest release as well. But as Rania said, utilizing AI is essential to build the differentiation, to build the business growth, the modernization that you're looking for these days. And, you know, it could be great, everyone could go off, all your developers could use any AI gateway they like, and you get a bit of that Wild West syndrome. Utilizing the AI gateway enables you to get that visibility and control and governance over what you're using, how you're using it, give you that access control, give you that security. Give you that place where you can implement the necessary controls to protect your data, to ensure you're getting the right answers back, add those guardrails, add those mediations and prompt decoration that allow you to get the best out of your AI services. And again, deploy this with our gateways in any environment that you need. So Bajira is our new API management SaaS platform. As with Devant, it is built on Choreo, so all of the awesome core capabilities that Choreo gives with deep observability, organizational management, project management, etc., all comes packaged in this. But Bajira is a focused UX specifically for API management. So if that's what you want to focus on, then Bajira is the tool to use. We've got a completely redesigned UX that makes it a lot easier for developers to create ingress and egress APIs, and also give you that visual capabilities to manage your resources. We're looking at adding capabilities to manage multiple back-end sources and compose those into single APIs. And this gives you that, if you want the SaaS experience, Bajira is the way to go. Now, just to highlight some of the capabilities across the platform, on the sort of productivity AI side, we're adding an AI designer to the platform where you can, in natural language, you can design your APIs, you can work on that initial specification. You can just ask it to create an API in a particular context. You can iterate over that in the chat until you get the specification you want. Once you've got the specification, and you can see on the diagram the open API spec there, you can then very easily take that through the platform, create an API proxy, and deploy that into the environment, the gateway of your choice. Another thing on productivity, which we've had for a couple of releases, but I wanted to highlight, is the API search. So API estates are getting more complex. You've got, you're not handling 10, 20 APIs, you're handling 100, 500, 1,000, 5,000. Some customers are handling 10,000 plus. If you want to maximize the reuse, if you want either your internal teams or your external consumers to be able to utilize the right API for the job, they've got to find it. You've got to be able to discover that. So within our portal, we've got the AI search assistant, which enables you, again, just with natural language, to ask for APIs with particular context, whether you want to ask for, I want a banking API that does FX transactions, or I'm looking for an API that handles fire, healthcare interactions. The assistant will give you the suggestions, and then you can deep dive into that as well. You can ask it about the capabilities of the API. You can ask it to compare the different APIs if it gives you a choice. All of that makes it a lot faster to find the right API you're using, and driving that reuse is critical to maximizing the value of your services. Because all of this under the covers is just exposing your data, your services, your events. You want people to be able to use them as fast and easy as possible. So what do you do when you've found that API? Well, you want to test it. You want to give it a go. You want to see how it works. Now, traditionally, you would do that with, you'd look up the specification, you'd read 3 or 4 pages of documentation. You might say, okay, I can do a curl command, but I'll need to create a data payload. So I've got to write some JSON. Takes a while. With the AI-assisted testing, again, just with asking through natural language, you can test any resource of the API. But beyond that as well, you can ask it to test scenarios. So if you've got an API with multiple resources, it can intelligently work out how they interact and work together. Place an order and ship it, 2 different API interactions. And within that, you'll be able to see exactly how those APIs work, how they're structured, how the data payloads are put together, and get some examples of that. And again, that with the search just basically means your consumers have got the best experience possible to get the right API, evaluate it, and consume it. And if you've got, if you're monetizing your APIs, this is also incredibly important. So one exciting new capability we're adding is governing with AI. So we've got great governance capabilities across the platform. We use industry standard spectral rules. You can import OWASP top 10 specifications, and you can evaluate your API estate against those. That's great. A lot of companies will have investment in lots of design standard documentation, blueprint documentation. In my previous role, I had a lovely 180-page integration blueprint for HMRC, which was great. No one ever read it, but, I spent a lot of time creating it. But trying to use all of the good thought, all of the good effort you've put into that, there was good stuff in it, honest. You really trying to apply that into your runtime environment, trying to get that down to your solution architects, to your development teams, to your operations teams, making sure that that's applied well is really tough. It's really difficult. That's why I moved out of enterprise integration architecture and went and run the development teams instead. But what we've got here is the ability to take that document, a natural language document, whether that be an API standard, a policy, a blueprint, and the AI will review that, create a set of rule policies that you can apply, and you can evaluate your APIs against any standard that you've got written down in natural language without having to craft lots of individual complex spectral rules individually. So you've got that both those views that you can see in the platform, where you can see the compliance dashboards against your rule sets and against the natural language policies that you've ingested. So we've talked a lot about, there's lots mentioned about AIs and agents, and as Rania said, agents and LLMs are great, but to really interact with the world, they need tools. Those tools are predominantly APIs. What we're looking at bringing to the platform is, how do we make the APIs easy for agents to consume, and find and utilize in the right way, you know? So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff we're looking at as how we can make APIs into tools specifically for agents. One of the emerging standards is MCP, which is a protocol that allows communication between you know, agents and data sources. And you can have the gateway act as an MCP server, which means that any AI system can easily discover the APIs running on the gateway and be able to consume them without any problems. Also works the other way, enabling the APIs to interact and consume LLMs with with the more standardized protocol. This is something we're looking to work on in the future. So a lot of you hopefully know WSO2 API Manager. We've got over 500 customers globally. You know, we're strong in finance. We've got over 30 countries running government systems on our platforms. I was one of them. And many others. So we're well established. We've got lots of examples. Do talk to each other. You know, when I first came to WSO2Con 2016 as a customer, the most exciting thing, apart from these wonderful talks, was talking to other users, talking to other customers, and getting insights. So do make the most of that. So if you want to learn more about APIM and all the stuff I've been talking about, it's very high level. There's a lot more under the covers, a lot more detail to the latest release. We've got the labs that are going to go through some of this stuff in detail. We've got some customer talks, and we've got the API management track on Thursday and a panel discussion. So please do join us there, and thank you very much for your time and listening. That's it. I'm off.
All right, thank you, Chris. So identity, of course, is fundamental. You can't be a digital business without knowing who you are digital with. So identity access management is a very, very important part of the overall framework that you need to have for digital. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Geethika Kure, Geeks, as he's known. He's our GM of the Identity Access Management BU. Geeks joined the company, I think, about 14 years ago, and he was in our sales function in various roles. And over the years, he's become an identity expert. And don't get him started on B2B to B to B2B, because he'll not stop with the Bs. But he's going to be giving you a quick tour of our identity portfolio. Geeks.
All right, thank you, Sanjeeva. All righty. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation so far. Sanjeeva, in his opening and just now, did my job for me. He's positioned it so well, talking about how identity and access management is fundamental, should be at the forefront of any modern digital enterprise. These identities could be the identities of your employees, of your consumers, of your citizens, could be the users of your B2B customers, your B2B partners, could be the users of your franchisees, agents, dealers. It could be identities of machines, right? Devices or workloads, and now could be the identities of agents. And your application developers have the task of writing applications, creating experiences, and in doing so, setting up authentication, authorization, managing the consent of all these users, and also the data associated with these users. Our job at WSO2 Identity Access Management is to provide your developers with a simplified experience so they can go about this as fast as possible. And in doing so, we absorb all the complexities associated with it. And we do that with our two product offerings, our open source identity server and our SaaS service, Asgardio. If you haven't seen these products, ladies and gentlemen, you should absolutely check them out. Identity Server 7, which we launched last year, completely modernized the Identity Server experience. And Asgardio, which runs Identity Server, open source Identity Server under the hood, takes that experience to the next level. It is on feature parity with Identity Server, and most often than not, given our cloud-first delivery strategy, is ahead of Identity Server. So if you haven't tried the products, even over the last 2 weeks, I strongly encourage you to join our labs or join us at the Oxygen Bar because we want to demo these products and get your feedback on them. Having said that, I'm excited to talk to you about some features that we have coming soon, or that we have already brought to the market. Starting with Agent IAM, giving you the ability to secure your agents. We are in the agent economy. As you do that, your agents are going to be performing tasks autonomously on your behalf or interacting with other agents. And as agents do all these things, securing the identities of that agent are going to be absolutely paramount, which is why our Agent IAM capabilities focus on agents as a first-class entity, just like your employees, citizens, consumers, and so on and so forth. We allow you to configure security credentials for these agents, whether they're accessing your internal APIs or third-party applications, third-party systems. We allow you to set up the agents so that they inherit your permissions, your entitlements, and as these agents perform all these tasks, it becomes so important that you're able to audit the access that these agents have within your enterprise. We also have some exciting features that we brought in to improve your developers' overall implementation experience, all powered by AI. Start off by our AI-powered registration flow builder. So registrations are most often than not the first interaction one of your users would have with your applications. So you want to make that as simple, seamless, and forgettable, while it's also secure. So you, with this AI-powered registration flow builder, can basically use natural language to define what that login flow should be, set up social logins, give me social logins, and so on and so forth, and our AI agent will build out that registration flow, and you now get to visualize that entire registration flow, change it around, and take it to production. We bought that same experience for our login flow builder, powering it with AI, where you can use natural language and define the login flows you want and have our agent build that for you. What's very interesting about identity access management is that more often than not, your end users directly interact with IAM. At every one of that customer touch points, you want to ensure that your enterprise brand identity is carried through. So with our AI-powered branding capabilities, you just point to your website, our agent will learn about your brand identity and customize every single touch point from the login page, the TOTP page, right up to every email that's sent as part of that journey. Providing you with a consistent brand identity across all authentication touch points, and really simplifying your developers' experience. We are bringing agents to our adaptive authentication. So adaptive authentication is a feature we've had for a long time. It allows you to set up a bunch of rules. If the user logs in at this time, do this. If the user logs in from a different IP, step-up authentication. Most often than not, those are essentially static rules, deterministic. Bringing in an agent into the mix, you define a bunch of tools, you give a bunch of guidelines, and the AI will use a non-deterministic way to build out those login flows on the fly. Of course, we are very grounded in realizing when it comes to AI and AI agents, there is a chance that the agents could hallucinate and basically go about things, well, not exactly how we expect them to. Which is why we are working on bringing in very strict guardrails, because we're talking about security here, right? We're bringing in very strict guardrails to ensure that these agents behave appropriately. Really sound like my mother when I say that. So ladies and gentlemen, we are working on this. We're very excited about this capability. And finally, we're thinking about going further beyond identity access management. What we realize is we know that all the users' identities, and we want to help enterprises leverage that user's identity to improve their relationship with those end users, improve the customer experience by providing personalization. In order to do that, the identity data that we usually have is not sufficient. We need to provide access to other customer data available, most likely siloed around the enterprise. And just to be very clear, when I talk about this customer data, this has to be customer data that's obtained with consent, with privacy absolutely at the heart of it, and providing the end users with the ability to audit, view all the permissions, revoke permissions, and all that fun stuff, right? So if we take that consent-aware data, infuse that with the identity, we get a digital double. You build a digital double for all your users, infuse that with AI, and now you're able to provide intelligent personalization for your users. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where we believe identity and access management, customer identity and access management is headed. And if any of this really resonates with you, we have a working group of customers working with us to build out these capabilities. If you're interested, we'd love to have you a part of it. So Sanjay spoke about how WSO2 is the heartbeat of many enterprises. We at WSO2 believe we are privileged to secure the heartbeats of so many enterprises around the world. And we'd love to have you part of the journey as well. I'm not sure if you guys are AIM customers. If you're not, or maybe you may not be the person who makes the decisions around identity and access management, that doesn't matter. Let's have a chat, because we believe we can add a lot of value to you and your enterprise. We have some amazing sessions planned out. So IAM sessions happen today and tomorrow. We have a lab happening today. We have the IAM track tomorrow, and some customer presentations and a customer panel discussion. Please join these sessions, and if not, just head over to the Oxygen Bar, and we'd love to take you through a demo of all these amazing capabilities and what's coming up. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have an awesome WSO2Con. Enjoy.
All right, thank you, geeks. So last but not least, a very important part of our platform experience. What we have been working with our customers over the last almost 20 years has been helping many, many customers build themselves an architecture, a platform, so they can get their internal application teams, internal business teams to be able to create and deliver digital experiences. Through that learning, we have also learned what does it need to be that we can build. What can we build for customers so they don't have to go through that entire journey by themselves? We can uplift that platform building experience to another level. That's what we are building as our internal developer platform as a service. So it's my pleasure to introduce Kanchana Vikramasinghe, who is our GM of the Choreo business unit, who is going to come and talk to us about Choreo. So Kanchana is based in Melbourne, Australia. Sorry, I forgot to mention Geeks is in Sri Lanka as well. And Kanchana joined the company through an acquisition we made about 3 years ago of a company he had started called Platformless, and he became the GM of the Choreo business unit after that acquisition. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Kanchana.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Barcelona. Good to be here. I'll be talking about Choreo for the next 10 minutes. Firstly, as Sanjeeva said, I think a lot of you heard about Sanjeeva saying, how do we transform from a lot of infrastructure into giving the platformless experience? Now, before I go in there, I'd like to touch a little bit on the SLDC part. The software engineers feeling that I'm actually working on a platformless platform. Obviously, the SLDC hasn't changed over time. It still stays the same, but it has become complex with cloud native, microservices, and now with AI. Now, this is what we are trying to do. We are trying to abstract the infrastructure and give it as a platform, as a service, where the software engineers can go build that awesome digital experiences for their customers. Let's take a look at what does it mean to work with Choreo. There are two sets of customers when we consider Choreo. Platform engineer, the one who comes and set up the platform to suit your organization need. Means it becomes your platform, not just Choreo. And then inviting the software engineers to go build the awesome digital experience that they've been always waiting for. Moving on, to do this, we had to do a lot of abstractions. Firstly, from a design perspective, we have to model it in a way that becomes so easier for the software engineers to understand, I'm going to build this finance or HR, or whatever the other digital app, even the app that we have built for you to use at the conference today. Choreo modeled this in a way that starts with an organization, which is your organization, and breaks it down to one or many projects. And within the projects, you could have one or many environments, and these environments get attached with components. And ultimately, that gets delivered into an infrastructure. In our case, obviously, we use Kubernetes, which is called a data plane. And this can be as a cloud data plane or as a private data plane that sits very close to your environment. Now, when you convert that in and start running it, we have chosen the cell-based architecture. Our CTO, Asanka Bissing, here, and our former CTO, founding CTO, Paul Fremantle, created about 7 or 8 years ago. What this means is the components that you create in a cell, they can go to internet, where consumers will consume, or within the organization, go southbound. You can also configure these to go east-west. Now, the beauty of Choreo is we have thought about this. The developers only have to configure and say, what I create can go either north or south or east-west. And we figure the underlying wiring for you. Now, that level of abstraction is key to offering you the platformless service. Under the hood, I didn't put this to scare you all. The head of cloud architecture is here. Lakmal, you can go and meet him and talk about it later. But this is the complexity that we had abstracted. I'm not going to bore you too much on this, but we have multiple sessions. You can come and talk about this if you want to. Now, if you are going to build, this is what you have to build. But we have built that and made it so simple as a console for platform engineers, whether they are connecting the infrastructure as data planes, or creating environments, inviting the users, or applying controls, they can do through a simple UI, or if they so wish to, they can do through a CLI as well. Once they have done this, they start inviting software engineers. Now the software engineers can bring their source and connect with Choreo. Again, a simple UI, simple concept. The abstraction that I talked to you earlier brings via a console or via CLI again, and we have some VS Code plugins also. They can start plugging in and directly communicate with Choreo. As you can see in the architecture diagram, it shows you at the project level what components are talking to each other, what are the restrictions, who are your contributors, etc. as well. A single pane of glass that shows you me as a software engineer, where things are, who is contributing, etc., etc. And if these services happen to be a service that others will consume, they can actually discover them from the marketplace. Traditionally, what's happening is a lot of them go around and ask, have you built this or not? You practically ended up duplicating. Again, for here, like Geek said, identity, and Chris said API management is inherent part of Choreo. Something that is already within the platform that the engineers don't have to think about. They just have to define which way my communication goes, who do I talk to, who do I don't allow to talk to. Of course, I can't say, go without saying about AI. Some of these capabilities exist in Choreo today. If you are a Choreo customer, a Choreo user, you may have seen this. The Copilot capability underneath is quite a bit of agents that are running, collecting data on behalf of you too. So you can actually ask our Copilot, how is my APIs performing, or how am I actually performing with regards to my cost. Because cost control is something that we are releasing with the con timelines, and there are sessions you can come and get to know more details about it. Of course, we are not going to stop there. As Sanjeeva and Dr. Rani also suggested, agents are playing a key role. So we are adding agents in addition to what we have that will get to know about your environment, about your code, about the way that you're architecting. So let's call it Chief Architect agent. It'll be able to tell you how overall your organization is performing. You all know if it is 1, 2, 3, up to maybe 10 APIs. You ask the enterprise architect, they'll be able to tell you how things are going. But that's not the reality. A lot of the organizations today have hundreds and hundreds of APIs, and they don't know what's going on. And importantly, it's not just API, all the other things underneath as well. So you probably heard the word architecture smell, what's going on in the organization. So the chief architect agent would be able to tell you. Not only that, with guardrails, over time, they'll be able to go and apply things. And again, QA agent, security agent, et cetera, et cetera. These are things we will be keep on adding to the platform. I'm also proud to announce that you all know Choreo as a SaaS, but we are also open sourcing Choreo, which is called Open Choreo. An early version of Open Choreo is available right now. You can go download it, even run it on your laptop, play it, figure out. This is the abstraction part of the data plane. So you can actually take a Kubernetes cluster, use open source Choreo or Open Choreo. You can talk through a CLI at the moment. You can get the same concept that you've been getting from Choreo. Why we are doing this? So with tying up with all our other products and Sanjeeva's and the founder's vision, we're continuing with the open source journey, right? Giving you an opportunity to try without any obligation. Of course, unlike the other BUs, I don't have a lot of customers, but I still have some customers, and they are actually doing some awesome work. Now, if you want to learn more about Choreo, I'm the last guy, so I'm going to say you are going to have some awesome labs today, one of the best labs that you should go to, and tomorrow you're going to have some great talks by Martin and others, and then the final day, we will have some internal development tracks and also some customer discussion panels. Thank you so much.
All right, Kanchana, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. We are running a little bit late. I have 2 minutes and we're done. So we've gone through the portfolio of our capabilities to give you an idea of how we are bringing the underlying core pieces together, how we are evolving them in the world of AI, and how we are trying to package everything together so that your focus can go to the right level. And that's really what we are trying to do. So we have several other keynotes that I want to just highlight very briefly before I wrap up. Tomorrow morning, Isabel is giving a talk about developer love. And the point here is, in the end, the people who will create awesome digital experiences for you are your developers. And by developers, I don't mean only the people who write the code, but the people who manage it, operate it, all of that. And the experience they have, the quality of the experience they have, how much you unburden them so that they can create and be delivering awesome experiences is a critical capability, a critical power that you can give to them so they can do various things. So please go attend that talk. And then another very important topic is actually everything I talked about today. I didn't mention anything about any particular industry or any particular vertical, whether it's healthcare, financial services, government, education, manufacturing. I didn't mention any of those things. So we do have various vertical capabilities as well, and we're working on both at the core infrastructure level of our products, having the right kind of transport protocols and message formats and so forth supported, as well as having intelligence at the vertical level. So in Mifan's keynote, he will cover quite a bit of that and explain how we are doing. Mifan is our Chief Solutions Officer, and he will cover a bunch of that work tomorrow. And then Rania will come back for a keynote on Thursday to cover about how we are doing the Code for AI and AI for Code, how that packages up into a little bit more detailed conversation about all our AI work and how you can experience it through the various products and how you can use it, not even if you're not using WSO2 technology, but the concepts and how to use it in various tools. And we always save the best for last. Asanka, who's our CTO, is going to cover really one of the most important topics, because the most difficult thing for people to do is change. It's very easy to stay where you are. It's very comfortable. So getting the mindset changed in an organization to be able to drive change is critically important. And to modernize an organization means basically a change process. And Asanka is going to talk about that, and he always has a very creative, wonderful conversation. Our goal here is to bring the infrastructure that we create into something that you don't think about. We want you to pay for it. That's a part of the business story, right? But it is not something that you as a company should be putting your energy and time and focus on. The technology abstractions that we create should go away from your mind, should not be the thing that bothers you, should not be things that you spend your night thinking about, but rather the application layer that you're building on. And that's what it means to be platformless. And when you are platformless, it means you have the freedom to create whatever the things that you want to create. And this is a line from, obviously, Satya Nadella. This is very well populated as a used statement now, that as technology evolves, it is no longer a matter of saying, well, we are using some software, and therefore you're a digital business. The real capability for a company comes when you use technology to create your own digital experiences, the ones that differentiate you, the ones that make people want to be your customer versus somebody else, and ones that allow you to become something that understands how to use digital to become a better business. And that's this topic called Every Company is a Software Company. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. We have a break for 20 minutes, and when we come back, we have Jeremy Schneider from McKinsey coming and talking about exactly this topic, on what it means to be a software company and what every company being a software company means. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for hanging in there for 15 minutes longer as well. Have a wonderful break. We start at 11:15.